Hi everyone, today I'm going to talk about Harriet Jacob and her book Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl. She wrote it in 1860 under the name Linda Brandt, and it's one of the most powerful first-hand accounts of slavery. What makes Jacob's story especially important is that she talks about the sexual abuse enslaved women faced, something that was usually kept hidden. In this lesson, I will go over the main themes from her narrative and explain why her voice really matters for how we understand slavery. Okay, moving to slide 2. Some of the key ideas in Jacob's stories are pretty heavy. She exposed how enslaved women were constantly threatened with sexual violence, and she even says her master was the father of 11 enslaved children. That's shocking, but it shows how common it was. She also calls out the hypocrisy of slavery. Northerners would still return runaway slaves under the fugitive slave law, basically acting like bloodhounds for the South, and she points out that the so-called Southern home was far from moral. Behind the image of respectability, there were also a lot of abuse, secrecy, and cruelty. On slide 3, Jacob really drives home three big points. First is sexual exploitation. Her master constantly harassed her, and she had no real protection. Second is hypocrisy. Her masters pretended to be moral, refusing to sell her, but at the same time, he was trying to exploit her. And third is how white women were part of the system too. Mistresses often blamed enslaved women instead of their husband, and Jacob even says some treat mixed-race children like property, selling them off just to get them out of sight. It's a reminder that slavery was upheld by entire households, not just individual men. The first slide is the historical context. Slide 4 gives us the bigger picture. Jacob growing up in Northern Carolina. Technically, she belonged to her mistress, but it was her mistress' father who abused her. Her grandmother tried to buy her freedom but was refused. This shows how trapped she was. Her story also highlights the bigger system. Enslaved women often had children with their masters, but those kids were still considered property, and even in the North, laws like the Fugitive Slave Act keep people in danger of being returned. So slavery wasn't just about forced labor, it was about control over every part of a person's body and life. The fifth slide is the Jacob's argument. Jacob's main argument becomes clear. She wants readers to understand that freedom isn't just about not being legally enslaved. It's about having dignity and bodily autonomy. She used very direct language like bluntly saying her master fathered 11 slaves to force her audience to face the truth. She also calls on Northern readers to reflect on their role in upholding slavery but returning fugitive. They were helping maintain the system. Basically, Jacobs reframes freedom to mean more than just survival. It has to include safety, respect, and human rights. On the sixth slide is the modern connection. Finally, Jacob's story connects to today. Her narrative shows how sexual violence was used as a tool of oppression, and that's something we still see in echo in conversation about harassment and power today. She also shows how powerful storytelling can be. By writing her own account, she broke the silence around enslaved women's experience. For us as students of history, Jacobs helps us see slavery not only as an economic system but also as something deeply personal. To warm up, Harry Jacobs teaches us that freedom means more than just not being enslaved. It means being able to live with dignity and safety. That's why her story is so important, not just for the Civil War era, but for how we think about justice now. That's all.